Patrick Reynolds is the Chief Strategy Officer for Triton Digital. Please welcome Patrick Reynolds.
Thank you very much. Stick with me, people. We're almost there. We're almost home. This has been a really unique conference, and obviously I put some materials together without the benefit of seeing those that would come before me. And I think there's some interesting places where there are some synergies to prior presenters and myself, and there's some places where there's perhaps a divergence. I'll let you spot which is which, but we've heard things like change, disruption. I think of it as transformation. The way people consume audio-based content is being transformed. The publishers that they're consuming that content from, that list, that roster, is being transformed. And those publishers themselves are transforming, even some of the biggest ones, like you heard Tom Conrad. As technology evolves, they have to transform and evolve with it. So the whole thing is in a constant change cycle, which is very exciting. But I think as I stand here at roughly 3 p.m. Pacific in San Diego, California, that audio is just getting its wings. I really feel like it's just kind of emerging into something really cool, and I really think it's actually starting to happen. A couple years ago, I maybe would have said the same thing, and it's been sort of a slow build, but I really feel like with some of the people that have thrown their hat in the ring recently, notably in Northern California, that things are really starting to happen in the space, and it's an exciting time. So I'm sure that Mary Meeker will sleep soundly tonight knowing that I agree with her that audio is going to be kind of a big deal in 2013. It's very encouraging that the rest of the world is kind of noticing. This quote actually came pre-Apple announcement, so I think it's just going to be amplified into the future. And it's not going to be all shits and giggles, folks. There's a lot that has to happen. There's a lot of balls that have to be juggled to make this thing work successfully. For everybody in the room to make as much money as they can, you have to juggle a lot of things. The kind of set it, forget it way that all of us did things in the past has been altered. There's new things that we have to kind of learn to do. Now, none of it is particle physics, but there are new things that we have to do, and I'm going to go over a couple of those in my estimation in this presentation. So I took the liberty of taking some of the things that we do in San Diego, and I've pulled out some data points to go over with you. So in this market, we work with about 30 different radio stations, and we measure their online audience. Can you folks see that okay? In May, any point in time on a 24-hour day part, there's about 5,126 people listening to these 30 stations, okay? On a 6A to 7P, more traditional day part, it's about double that. It's about 9,500, okay? It's a number. Those people, though, came to those stations courtesy of 60 different devices, different phone platforms, different gaming consoles, applications like TuneIn. I think, Mark, you mentioned Roku earlier. I have Sonos, gaming consoles themselves, new in-dash stuff. There's all kinds of things that are going on, and you have to be in all of these if you want to gobble up all the audience that you can. So it's kind of complicated, but you have to kind of be all the places that your people are if you want that audience. What I found kind of interesting is that less than half of the people listening to these San Diego stations were listening from San Diego. Maybe that's old news to you. I think it's kind of a number, though. I think it's a huge compliment that for these people, your audience transcends the reach of your towers. There are more people listening from outside the market than inside the market. I think that's a really interesting thing. There's some challenges involved with that, and there's huge opportunity to monetize that audience outside of San Diego to agencies and direct marketers outside of San Diego is really exciting stuff. But it's not that easy either. So let's we'll kind of look through the other end of the telescope, if you will. Let's look outside. We won't look at publishers. Let's look at the San Diego marketplace. See what we can divine from that. Overall, In San Diego, again, this 24-hour day part, there's just shy of 20,000 people that are listening to online audio, okay? About 19,786 on average in the month of May that we measure. So that's not necessarily the entire universe, but it's a pretty big chunk of it. 67% of those people, those sessions, were listening to Pandora. 67% of the sessions were Pandora. It's a big number. It's a big number. So there's a good number for the local stations, but there's a really big number for Pandora. Why is that? Well, you know, you heard some of Tom's theory. It's not my place to say, but I think their offering of choice, customization, control, low spot loads certainly has an impact. Their ubiquity, their phone, you know, they're about 80% mobile. Most radio stations that we work with are less than 50% mobile. So they're kind of where people are, and they're getting a big audience. But it's not just Pandora. You know, San Diego's a beautiful place. People flock here from all over the country, and that's reflected in some of the data that I'm going to show you now. So there are 4,754, I think it says in that brick, different stations that were listened to in May. 4,754 different stations listened to by the people of San Diego. Really big number, shocking. People were listening to stations emanating from Boston, Buffalo, Boise, Beaumont. I looked for Butte, but nobody from Butte. Not a one person has emigrated from Butte to San Diego, evidently. So they're listening to a lot of local traditional radio stations online. Maybe they're following the news from, you know, a former hometown or something like that, but there's a number of people in San Diego listening outside of the market. They're also listening to pure plays above and beyond Pandora. There's hometown favorite Slacker that does a big number in San Diego. There was a lot of volume on the iHeart custom channels. There were sort of specialty pure plays, like the Love Station from Big R Radio. I tried to put my big DJ voice on there, but I watched the Bruins game last night, and I don't have much of a voice, I'm afraid. And I'm all cried out, too. And they listen to K-Love. K-Love does a shockingly big number in San Diego, shockingly big number, which leads me to the conclusion that there is something in the air in San Diego that people are falling in love and very much attracted to the whole proposition of love and its soundtrack in San Diego, disproportionate to the rest of the country, which is interesting. So let's talk about monetization and revenue for a second. So I am a reformed, recovering agency person. Hi, I'm Patrick. Hi, Patrick. This was kind of the world that I grew up in. A lot of dudes, a lot of ties, making great big bets over things with spirits and olives and this kind of a glass at lunch. Good times, good times. And all these deals were consummated with a handshake. I talk to you, we meet, I believe you're a good person, you're a good gal, you're a good guy. The numbers sound okay to me, I think we should do business. And this was a delicious steak salad. And if we have tickets for the game, so much the better. That's how business was transacted, right? It was very soft metrics, where there were metrics at all. This is more likely who everybody's going to be doing business with into the future, if not the present. These are not madmen. These people look different than the people that I came up into business with, and they behave fundamentally different. And accordingly, on the publisher side, we have to act differently when we're interacting with them, right? So they live in an entirely digital world. That green thing at the bottom is a city made up all of ones and zeros. And that's kind of how they view the world. It's just data. Everything is data. You have to provide it. At the top there, you see there's a microscope, so they're going to put everything that you do under a microscope. Every single member of your audience individually, they're going to want to know about. But they're also big into sort of telescopes and looking out into the universe. It used to be that there was tremendous value assigned to people that mastered the existing media. So when you would go into an agency, there were people that knew newspaper, radio, and television cold. Every nuance of it, right? These people, and there was great currency around that. Now there's more currency, in my opinion, around what's next, what's not here, but what's coming. So even if you're a venerable media or a venerable publisher, you have to constantly be kind of reinventing yourself to seem more current and new. Even Pandora, I think, is going to face that challenge soon if they don't face it now, where they have to bring some new twist to the marketplace so that everybody can check that, yeah, that's new and cool box. It's a major challenge. It's very different. So there's a number of different ways that you can monetize what you have. There's the whole. Take your whole audience, understand who it is, where they come from, on what device, and you can oftentimes monetize the whole thing. There's agencies that will say, I'll take it. And they'll buy the whole thing online, and there's a great value in that. But increasingly, there's people that just want a part of it. They just want one aspect of your audience. And that's a very knowable thing now, right? You used to say men 18 to 34 or adults 18 to 49 or whatever. Most people now say, I'm looking for a certain kind of woman between this age and this age that has these, that's been to an automotive website in the past 30 days. And if you have that, I'll pay you a lot for it, by the way. So oftentimes these yellow Legos can be worth more than just sort of the big pile of them, but it's a more complicated transaction, right? So you have to be able to sell your audience one to many, one to some, one to one. Questions? Chess with death, kind of a heavy ending. I'm not here to tell you this is easy, folks. This new way of doing business in the digital world is tough. There's some stuff about it that's really, really hard. It's complicated. It's always changing. There's so many devices. It can be kind of a pain in the ass. But there are people out there, some of which we've mentioned today, some others that you're probably aware of, that are making the investment in the technology and in the people to be the trusted companion for these agencies and for this audience. They're doing it. And I think it is so critically important that everybody in this room realizes that there are people angling for these incredible audiences that you all have. They're all going for your audience. And it's really critical that you invest mind share and technical resources to compete for this audience. And you can see this as sort of an unbranded presentation. The only thing that I will tell you that is self-serving here is that we want to work with everybody here to make sure that you are reaching the widest audience possible with the highest quality audio, that you have the intelligence of audience that you need to go sit down with a traditional radio buyer, with a digital buyer, with a programmatic buyer, inside your market, outside your market, right? A spot buyer, a network buyer. We want to give you the data that you need to take there and get full value for your audience. And we also want to make sure that you have the very, very granular data that allows it to be sold, again, one to many, one to one, one to some. Because if you add those three things up, I think it's a better model than the old model. But it takes some effort. So we have 250 people roughly in the company, 255. I don't think there's anybody in the world making a bigger commitment to the success of the online audio space than we are, and it's just so that you can succeed. When you win, we win. That's the only way it works for us. So with that, I thought I'd take any questions that you have about different technology products that we have, or anything that we're up to that might be additive to this. Yes, sir.
I want to find out how far you're going to get into traditional, radio measurement, as far as like maybe something electronic, a la PPM.
That's not on our roadmap. PPM, gosh. Gosh, yeah. Well, so here's what we do, right? We have census-based measurement. So we measure servers and tell you exactly how many connections are made to a server at any point in time. So if Tom were here, we could go onto the console, we work with Pandora, and say there's exactly this many people connected right now. And there's exactly this many people connected in San Diego right now. And because they have registration data, there's exactly this number of people connected, women connected in Pandora to Pandora right now. And there's exactly this many women on an iPhone 4S listening to Pandora right now, because that might be a different creative execution than an Android platform, as an example. So that's the kind of the specific world, the non-guesstimate. We're not math people. Well, we just add up the, We're not doing any beautiful mind calculations and 1 equals 1,254 and blah, blah, blah.
I guess what I'm asking is, can you take that same mindset of like it's on or it's off, it's a 1 or a 0, without the voodoo of an average 4-hour?
If it's server-based, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well,
That's what we do. So we can't do it at tower-based.
Yeah.
We can't do it with towers, but as things move more and more towards mobile and IP-based delivery, that's the game. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I know there's a lot of talk about Triton sharing their data, our data at the stations with other ratings providers or other
I hadn't heard that.
aggregators. Can you talk a little bit about what that's looking like and why is there a battle and where are the battle lines? And also, because the longer this battle takes, some of us in the industry feel like the losers on this end are the actual radio stations.
Yep.
Will you kind of talk about that a little bit and what's going on with that process?
Yeah, so that's an ongoing, conversation that we've had. It's not actually something to be flip about on our end at all. It's very, very serious business. We are decidedly a for-profit company. We have a way that we do it that we want to be compensated for. We don't want to give anybody the secret sauce and let them, engineer or reverse engineer what we do and how we do it. Ours is the only MRC accredited product. We don't want to, we've worked really hard for that. It's also quite expensive. We don't want to just make that open source and give it away. On the other hand, as I just got through saying, we're here to help our clients succeed. And if that is a path to success, then we take that very seriously. There's just some real protections that would have to take place. And I don't want to seem big brother government NSA kind of guy with you, but we also want to make sure it's the right thing for the industry because we have a huge investment emotionally and financially in the industry, and we want to make sure that this proposal makes sense for all the clients that we have today, clients that we're going to have tomorrow, people not in the space yet. So we're not blowing it off, we're not stonewalling, we're just going to be very cautious here. It means a lot to us on multiple levels. I might turn it around and say, on the other hand, we're tied into a lot of the trading desks out there that other people are not. I'm happy to pass their metrics through. Standing offer, I think it's on TV. Yeah, I mean, if Arbitron wants to give us their metrics, I'm happy to feed them with our MRC accredited metrics through the agency trading desks. Why not? So we're looking at it from every angle, and it's an important issue that we're not fooling around with, but it's complicated. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How do you see the Nielsen play when they roll Arbitron up? I mean, I know you're kind of saying we're not in that game, but it seems to me that Nielsen wants to be in the whoever the media user is and whatever media they're consuming, they want to be the platform ultimately that all buyers have to rely on, their standard. So what is Triton's position on that, or what keeps you up at night?
Not that. I think both good companies, a lot of respect as an agency person. I've used both Arbitron and Nielsen for many, many years. I think they're very good products, and they're companies that are stocked with very good people. At this point, it just feels a little Venus and Mars to me, where we are so foundationally different, where they're survey-based, and they're going to take a snapshot and extrapolate, and we're census-based, and how those two things come together is just tricky for me to understand, but huge respect. Know a lot of folks over there, like them. Conversations have been had, and hopefully they'll continue. Maybe there's a combined approach that would work. It's just got to work for everybody. You know, it's just got to work for us. It's got to work for our customers. It's got to work for our prospects, and it's got to work for agencies. Let's not forget agencies. I want to make sure that what they're getting, they're comfortable with, so that they can continue to spend with you, because it makes sense for Triton, or it makes sense for Arbitron, or it even makes sense for you. If it doesn't make sense for the agencies, then we all have a problem, right? So there's just, again, it's a very sticky situation, but no animosity doesn't keep me up at night. I think it's going to be a long process based on everything that I've heard. Hopefully something can happen down the road that works for everybody.
I want to ask one final question, Patrick. You know, normally we don't get a chance to see these statistics in local markets. And when you see it in even though you know the Pandora numbers are high, et cetera, when you see it in your local market, it really is pretty unsettling. Because, wow, that's 2 out of every 3 people who are streaming right now are streaming Pandora, and the rest, almost half of them are scattered to stations elsewhere in the country. I wonder if you can sum up, what is your advice to broadcasters going forward in terms of streaming strategy? What are the things they must do?
Be everywhere, starting with mobile. So all those 60 places, the next time we get together, should there be a next time for me, there'll be a next one of these, but whether or not Mark has me back remains to be seen. It'll be 80 or 100 or 200 or 6,000. I don't know how many. I mean, there's Xboxes, there's toasters, there's refrigerators. Anything that kind of plugs in is capable of audio. It's really not a big push technically. And so you have to be in all those places. You can't say, well, wait, I don't want you to stream in your toaster, because they're going to stream somebody. Pandora will be in the toaster. Apple in the toaster. So you just have to be in all those places, and and hopefully things get simplified over time. But for now, there's a lot of customization that has to happen. So I would say be everywhere, starting with mobile. The second is I would really invest in understanding my audience. Where does it come from geographically? When does it come day part wise? On what device does it come? What registration data do I know about it, if anything? And then I would organize those into sort of piles, as in the Lego example, and say, okay, I can get this much for the yellows. I know somebody who's looking for a campaign for men 25 to 54. I can get X for this, and you really understand how you can do yield management is really what we're talking about. You have a lot of Legos. How can you put them together in the most beneficial way for you? And then the last thing I would say is wear sneakers to work, because it is going to get disrupted on an ongoing basis, and you're going to be running around ragged. That's just the world that we live in. That's what we are. Just when you think you got it done, somebody comes out with a new device, a new operating system, a new in-car dash thing, and you got to start all over again. Such is life, in the digital world. But I would say just don't get comfortable and embrace the challenge. Last thing, Mark, I think it's fantastic that Pandora is bringing a huge audience to San Diego. I think they're the tide that's lifting all boats. Now, they've created a habit where people want to listen to digital audio. They've created a habit. Now, you can go get some of that business. And I don't mean that anti-Pandora, I mean it's good for everybody. You can go take some of those listening occasions through the strength of your content. I think that's an exciting thing. They've done a lot of legwork for you. Now you just have to go take it. Right? Thank you, guys.
Patrick Reynolds, Chief Strategy Officer, Triton Digital.